Hey, thanks for joining me today. We are going to talk about solving equations containing decimals. Now, this is really a review of two things, solving equations and working with decimals. And so just mixing the two things together. So I think this should be fairly easy. We'll do a couple of examples here. First one I have is 0.4x equals 50. Now, the first thing we do is we put on our equation hat and we say, when we're solving an equation, what do we do? And the answer is whatever is being done to x, we undo that by doing the opposite to both sides. So what's being done to x is being multiplied by 0.4. So we're going to undo that by dividing by 0.4. And remember, the fraction bar means divide. So I'm just going to write a fraction bar, 0.4. And so 0.4 divided by 0.4 is 1. 1 times x is x. So that is x, which is our goal. We want to find out what x equals. And then that's the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we discover what x equals because we have this problem, 50 divided by 0.4. And now we turn off our algebra brain and we turn on our decimal brain and we say, well, how do we do 50 divided by 0.4? And the way we do it is we do long division, 0.4 into 50, and then we move the decimal over one space. So the decimal point's going to be right there. There's three spaces. It's 4 into 500. 4 goes into 5 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. Bring down the 0. 4 goes into 10 two times. 2 times 4 is 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. Bring down the next 0. 4 goes into 25 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract again. We get 0. Remainder 0, so we don't have to use, we don't have anything after the decimal point. It's just 125. 125.0. And there's our answer. Then we can check this by going back to the original problem. We said 0.4, let's use a different color, 0.4 times x equals 50. That means 0.4 times 125 equals 50. So we can do that. 125 times 0.4. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And then there's one decimal place, so we put a decimal point there, and we get 50.0 or 50, so this is true. So keep in mind that this bit in the purple is just my check, okay? That's not the answer. The answer is x equals 125. That's the value that makes the sentence true. Okay, let's do another one. Let's remember this. This was a complex looking one. We have 5 parentheses, that means 5 times, x plus 2.3 equals 19.5. So we ask the same question, what's being done to x? Well, we have this times 5 outside the parentheses, we have this plus 2.3 inside the parentheses. Normally we would undo the addition or subtraction first. We go reverse order of operations. But reverse order of operations means that we do what's outside the parenthesis first, and then we undo what's inside the parentheses second. I said that wrong, but you understand what I mean. So we're going to undo the times 5 first, because it's outside the parenthesis, and then we'll undo the plus 2.3 second. So we undo times 5 by divide by 5. So we'll just divide both sides by 5. And once again, we have a division problem, 19.5 divided by 5, that involves decimals, and so it's best to just do that off to the side. Now, at some point in your life, you'll just pull out the calculator and do that. But right now, we are learning how to solve or how to deal with decimals. I'm not going to give anything too difficult, and the things that I give you here, I'm expecting you to be able to do worked out mathematically on the page, not just typed in the calculator. Okay, so 5 goes into 1, 0 times 5 goes into 19, 3 times 5 is 15, subtract 19 minus 15 is 4, and we'll put the decimal point up here, that's going to be part of the answer, but we'll bring down the 5. 5 goes into 45 9 times, and 9 times 45 is 45. So this went in evenly. When we subtract, we get 0, remainder 0, so 3.9. So 19.5 divided by 5 is 3.9. And then the 5 divided by 5 is 1. 1 times x plus 2.3. So that leaves x plus 2.3, and now we need to figure out what's being done to x. We can ask the question again, what's being done to x? Plus 2.3 will do the opposite to both sides, minus 2.3, minus 2.3. And 2.3 minus 2.3 is 0, 0 plus x is x. That's the goal, x equals. And then we'll do, what does x equal? It's 3.9 minus 2.3. This one we probably could have done in place, but 9 minus 3, we line up the decimals. For adding and subtracting, we line up the decimals. 9 minus 3 is 6. Bring down the decimal point. 3 minus 2 is 1, so 1.6. So I like to do my work off to the side when I'm dealing with decimals because so often I'm borrowing and carrying and long divisioning, and so my equation can get a little bit messy if I'm trying to do the math here in the area of the equation. So that's why I move it off to the side. But that's the only difference between doing equations with decimals and doing them with integers. Okay, I won't plug this one back in. I'll let you do that on your own, but you can do that anytime you have an equation. You can plug it back in. Let's do an easy one. You can probably do this one without my help. X plus 5.7 equals 8.4. What's being done to x? Plus 5.7. What's the opposite of that? Minus 5.7. And 5.7 minus 5.7 is 0. 0 plus x is x. Let's see, can we do this one in place? 8.4 minus 5.7. We have to borrow from the 8, make it a 7. To add a 10 to the 4 is 14. 14 minus 7 is 7. Bring down the decimal point. 7 minus 5 is 2. X equals 2.7. And I don't think this would have been any easier even if we'd used a calculator. Alright, last example, and this one I think is really good to contrast with that second one I did. Remember that had a parenthesis here? And so the parenthesis said, when you're solving an equation, we're going in reverse order of operations. So we do what's outside the parenthesis before, or undo it, before we do what's inside the parenthesis. Well now, I don't have a parenthesis, so I'm going to go in reverse order of operation, which says undo the addition and subtraction first before you undo the multiplication and division. And you think about it in terms of what's being done to x. It's going to be multiplied by negative 2, and then we're going to subtract 4.2. So we're going to undo that in reverse order. We're going to undo the subtracting 4.2 first, and then we'll undo the multiplying by negative 2. Okay, so what's the opposite of minus 4.2? You're right, plus 4.2. We'll do that to both sides. And 4.2, or negative 4.2 plus 4.2 is 0. 0 plus negative 2x is negative 2x. And then 8.6 plus 4.2, let's see, 6 plus 2 is 8. Bring down the decimal point, 8 plus 4 is 12. So negative 2x equals 12.8. What's being done to x? It's being multiplied by negative 2, so we're going to divide by negative 2. Now this is interesting. We are multiplying by negative 2, so we do the opposite, which is divide by the exact same thing. In this case, it's a negative number. So we have to remember our rules for multiplying and dividing by negative numbers. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 is positive 1. So we have 1x, or just x, equals, it was 12.8 divided by negative 2. Well, there's a couple of ways, a couple of things to think about. The first thing I have to think about is my answer going to be positive or negative? And when I'm multiplying or dividing, if I have an even number of negatives being multiplied and divided together, then the negatives cancel each other out. If I have an odd number of negatives, in this case just 1, then the answer is going to be negative. Okay, that deals with the negative. Now what's 12.8 divided by 2? 2 goes into 12.8. We can do long division. 2 goes into 1, 0 times 2 goes into 12, 6 times. 6 times 2 is 12. Subtract, we get 0. And then bring down the 8. 2 goes into 8 4 times. 4 times 2 is 8. Subtract, and we get 0 again. So 6.4. Now you probably could have done that in your head, and that's okay with me. If you do something that simple in your head, that's fine. But be sure that you are prepared to do your work as much as necessary on scrap paper at the side of your problems and not relying on a calculator. Thanks for watching. Hope you find this section easy, and have a great day.